back, Chippers, to another edition of Chippers TV or Chippers Workshop. We've been talking about making a box. We've made 2 boxes out of paper, and you're probably going, another box. But this time we're going to make it out of wood, and once we build the box, we're actually going to find out how we can do different things with a box, one single box. So what we got to start with is we're going to start with one piece of wood that we're going to cut down to the size. So the first thing you have to do is you have to draw out your plans and come up with a plan on how big of a box that you actually want and how you want to put it together. So what I've done is I've pre-cut a template because I'm going to build 3 of these boxes so we can do different things in the future with these boxes. So what I've decided and what I planned is the box needs to be 7 inches by 7 inches. Okay, so you got to decide how you're going to put your pieces together. If you notice, I've got 2 that are one size and 2 that are a different size. The reason for that is you got to take into account the thickness of the wood so you can end up with your measurements. So when you put it together, and I'm going to actually just put this together to show it to you, you're going to set these down, and the way I've designed this is the short pieces go inside of the bigger pieces. So with doing that, then we can take our clamp and we're going to line this up because we're just going to show you how this is going to turn out. So I line those pieces up, then I take my clamp and clamp that down, and then I do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to get that all lined up, and then I'm going to clamp that. Okay, and that gives us our box. So take our tape measure and see if we've measured this correctly. Remember, we put the short pieces inside. So when we measure it, it comes out to 7 inches. 7 inches. 7 inches. 7 inches. So now we have a square box. So what we got to do now, we've done that, is we've got to take our board and we've got to cut it into the size we want. Okay? So what I'm going to do with that is I'm actually going to cut this on the table saw. Now I've measured out the length of all 4 pieces, so I've cut this board just a little bit longer so we can cut that up. But we're going to go to the table saw now, and I've got the preset to cut these pieces in the right thickness. So come on back here with me, come to the table saw, and I'm going to show you that I've got a preset. This is where we're actually going to have the size of the piece. First of all, anytime you're working, make sure you have it unplugged as you're doing your measurements for safety. You don't want it to accidentally start, even though most of your newer equipment has safety switches on it. To be sure, don't have it plugged in. So here's our power. We've got it separated. So I've measured this out, and the size that I'm looking for is 2 and just under 3/8. And that's how deep our box is going to be. So we've got our push stick, so once we get close so our hand doesn't get close to the blade, we'll plug our saw in. And remember, hand tools or power tools, what's the first thing that we put on? Put on our safety glasses. Okay, this is going to be loud. I'm going to cut 3 pieces and they're going to pop out on the floor on the other side. And I want to do 3 pieces because I've got this preset and I want to make 3 boxes. So instead of trying to remeasure and get it right each time, I'm going to cut the strips individually to start with before we move the guide. So if you're ready, before we do anything else, we wait for the blade to stop for safety. So we make sure that that's stopped before we do anything. So now I've got these three pieces, but if you notice, one's a little bit thicker. Okay, if you look at that, the center piece is a little bit thicker, so we've got two to the right. So these are the ones that we already pre-cut, so these are correct. So we're going to set those down here, but now we're going to trim this off before we do anything else. So I'm going to turn this back on. Remember, we're waiting for the blade to stop, but now we have our three pieces and they're all the same thickness because we want to make 3 sets of drawers. Okay, so the next thing we got to do is we are going to cut a partial groove into each one of these. Okay, and this is another template that I've got preset for the depth. And this is where we're going to actually put in our bottom, and we'll show that to you shortly. So what we got to do first, remember, is we unplug our saw, and before we get it preset on what we want to do, we're going to use this and we're going to adjust the blade down. And the reason we're going to do that is you see where my cut is there. That's the depth I want. So I'm going to bring this down till that slides. So that's the depth that we want. So now that we have the depth that we want, we've got to decide on how deep we want to do it. We've got to come up about 1/4 of an inch at least so the wood doesn't split. Okay? So we're going to take our fence and we're going to unlock that. And so we're going to have to cut this. And we're going to do it just at the 1/2 inch mark. So if you can see that, we're at the 1/2 inch mark right there, and that's where the blade is. So I'm going to take the guide, lock that down. Have our pieces, get our saw, get our push stick, plug our power in. And again, we're going to cut this, and we're going to cut through all 3 of them. So that's the slot where our bottom's going to go. You can see that right there. So what I'm going to show you is what we've got. We're going to use this fiber board as the base, as the bottom of the box. But this is a little bit thicker than our cut. Okay? So that's not going to quite fit. So we're going to actually have to make one more cut to make this work. But now that I have this set, we'll reset the saw. Again, we're going to turn the power off and unplug. Now we're going to line this up and we're going to cut. We're going to move it just a little bit up to the top. So we're going to go like that, and you can see we'll take an extra cut out of the board. So we set those aside, plug it back in, get our push stick, wait for the blade to stop. Now we're going to test this to see if we made it deep enough. And there you go. You see how that slides in there? So now that gives us where our bottom's going to go. So now we're going to go over, pick these up. Now we're going to go over, we just got done with the table saw. Now we're going to go over to the miter saw where I have it preset to make our cuts. So we unplug our saw and we bring our power over with us. Okay, so now remember, I've got this unplugged, but I'm going to plug this in. And what I have is, remember, we got to cut, for each box we have to have 2 pieces that are 7 inches and 2 pieces that are 5.5. So to make sure I get them all the same size, I put this jig on here to do our 5.5. Okay, so it's preset. So the way we're going to cut that is we'll put this on here and you push it up to the end here, and then you cut and each piece will come out the same size. Push it in again. Okay, so that's one set. And there's 2 sets. We're going to do one more, so we're going to do 2 more pieces. Okay, so there's our 3 boxes with the 5.5-inch piece. So we're going to set those aside. Now we've got to change our size. And using our template again, this time this is the 7-inch piece. If you remember, so we did the 5.5. So now that's at 7, okay? So we know we want to do it 7, so that piece is set. Again, I'm going to make adjustments. So I'm going to unplug the power. Push this in, and I'm going to take this clamp and I'm going to loosen this clamp up. And we're going to push that board over until we get this lined up. So we put the blade down, and then we push that board into there. Tighten that back up. And now we're going to cut our 7-inch pieces. Plug ourselves back in. Come over on the other side to cut this one. Okay, now I have my pieces all cut, so those are all set. Okay, but we're going to leave these, and we're only going to deal with one set of two and one set of two of the 5.5. We're going to come back over here and have those there. Now what we have to do, now we have to cut the bottom, and I've pre-measured it and tested it, but it needs to be 6 inches. So if you go to the depth of the cut that I made, that's going to be 6 inches. So this base has to be 6 by 6. Now if you're not starting with a straight piece, you can cut it differently. But what I've got is I've got this template that's 6 by 6. It's already pre-made. So I'm going to take that, set it on my board, and I'm going to mark that. And that's going to give us our box. So again, hang on a second, I'm going to go unplug the saw and bring the power over. So I've got that marked out. So we're only going to cut one of the bottoms for right now. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take our guide and get it out of the way, because I'm not sure if all these edges are square. So I'm going to take this, push this out of the way, and I'm going to take the guide, and I've already checked that this is square. This is 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do is slide it into the slot here. We're going to put this on here, and then we're going to make sure that we've got the depth right. We just want the teeth to show a little bit above. So we've got that set. So we take the power and plug back in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this over and get us lined up, and then I'm going to hold this like this so we can cut this line. Blade to stop, and now we're going to try and dry fit this together. So we've got this cut, so we're going to come back over here, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to take our pieces, we're going to slide pieces together. We're going to make sure that we've got them on the same side, so the short end is at the bottom. We'll put the 5.5 inch piece in, the other 5.5 inch piece in. Our basic box. Okay, when we come back, we're going to make sure that this all fits together correctly. So we'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back, chippers. We've got our box, we've got it all set. Now we've got to put it together. What I'm actually going to use is I'm going to use the Airstrike brad nailer to put this together. The thing with this is it's got a safety on it, and you can't push it until you actually push everything in. So what I'm going to do is line this up, get the pieces lined up how I want them, and you want to make sure that your fingers are not down underneath. Because if it hits a knot, the nail hits a knot, it can push out the side, just like if you're driving a nail, so you want to make sure your fingers are out of the way. So I'm going to take that, put it like that, I'm going to line it up, drive that in, do the same. Now we're going to take it and turn it around. We're going to line up our other side. Make sure we have it lined up. Then we're going to take our box and flip it over and make sure that we're lined up. So we'll get that all lined up. Turn it around. The other side lined. Put that down, and there's your basic box. The bottom in it. Okay, so now I want you to think about, now that we have a box, what else can you do with the box? Okay, and that next time we'll look at different things and different options that we can do, what else we can do with a box. If you can build a box, you can build just about anything, and so we're going to show you what learning how to build a basic box out of wood leads to next. We'll see you in the shop.